Think you're having a rough day? Imagine discovering your Tinder date's idea of Netflix and chill involves burying you alive in a graveyard. Our movie kicks off at a construction site where our main man, Clint, who's about as charming as drywall, is working hard at, well, hardly working. He shuffles into his office and rings his wife, Joanna, who is still dusting off the sleep fairies. Clint makes it sound like he's getting ready to send his wife off to war, when he's only saying goodbye for a weekend, setting the mood for a Friday night Netflix binge of his own. Joanna, on the other side of the line, looks about as thrilled as a cat in a bathtub. Meanwhile, our mystery guest shows up, Clint's mid-morning visitor. Joanna, not to be outdone, has some fun with the postman, trying to charm a package from him, while their canine alarm system, Duke, decides to go berserk in the background. It's enough to make anyone start barking. Cut to Clint cruising down the highway where he runs into his good friend Sam, the sheriff. He's got the kind of luck that makes you believe in karma. Sheriff Sam asks Clint if he's down for a spot of fishing, to which Clint replies with a heck yeah, like he's just been offered a lifetime supply of beer. No wife, no rules. Clint is living the dream. Once Clint's free from the long arm of the law, he makes a beeline home. He opens the door and out pops Duke, who's been holding it in so long he probably thinks he's at the world's worst game of hide and seek. Joanna, who's about as welcoming as a cactus hug, makes her displeasure clear. Clint leans in for a smooch and gets a Heisman in return. Love is truly in the air. Clint tries to break the ice by telling her about the $1.5 million offer he turned down for his business. Joanna, counting all those zeros, suggests they go back to New York, but Clint, clinging to his manifest destiny dream of constructing a life in the middle of nowhere, is having none of it. They both toss words around like a game of angry Scrabble, and it's revealed they've been trying to make babies for 2 years without success. In the next scene, Joanna peels out of the driveway in her blue supercar, leaving Clint in a cloud of dust and despair. Then we see Clint trying to fish his troubles away with Sheriff Sam. Clint spills his marital tea, and Sam admits everyone was shocked when he traded skyscrapers for tumbleweeds. Meanwhile, our plot thickens like weak old gravy. Joanna's up to some extramarital tomfoolery with her doctor, Cortland. He's got big plans for Beverly Hills, but he needs cash. And guess who's got a recently boosted offer of $1.5 million? Joanna wants out of her marriage, but Cortland suggests she make Clint take the final nap instead. He's been dabbling in fish poison, you see, the perfect recipe for heart-stopping disaster. Joanna's eyes glint with the promise of a life full of fancy cars and Clint-free weekends. Before Joanna hits the road, Cortland, like a dark, twisted pharmacist, tells her Clint needs to down the whole poison cocktail for a plan to work. Joanna, the soon-to-be murderous widow, heads home and begins to dig through her bag for the lethal substance. But in a classic sitcom moment, the little vial of doom slips and starts doing its best impression of a leaky faucet. Joanna, hit by a sudden wave of sanity, lobs the poison into the trash, muttering something about "till death do us part," being a little too literal for her liking. But her little bottle of doom is a persistent guy. It's still dripping away in the trash, auditioning for a role in a low-budget horror film, when Clint, oblivious hubby number one, comes home. Joanna decides distraction is the best strategy, so she cranks up her charm level to 11 and plays the perfect, seductive wife. 3 minutes later, she's back in the kitchen, channeling her inner Gordon Ramsay, while Clint retreats to his workshop, where he starts making a racket. Joanna, peeved at the industrial symphony coming from the workshop, remembers her trash liquid doom. Quick as a TikTok trend, she fishes out the vial from the trash and decides to pair the poison with some vintage wine, to bring out the flavors or something. Clint, Mr. Perfect Timing, comes back in and takes their poisoned grape juice to the table. Joanna watches, sweating more than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, hoping he doesn't accidentally switch their glasses. Fortunately for her, Clint downs the tainted vino, his body going into an emergency dance routine before he crumbles to the ground. Joanna doesn't lift a finger to help him, even though he's clutching his chest like a tragic Shakespearean character. Joanna, cool as an overpriced organic cucumber, gives Cortland a ring to say, "Honey, I did the dishes." Fast forward to Sheriff Sam and Cortland showing up at Joanna's place. Sam, completely clueless, wonders why his friend Clint, who could probably run a marathon on a whim, suddenly keeled over. Meanwhile, the toxic vial of liquid doom is playing hide and seek on the floor, and Sam narrowly avoids crushing it underfoot. Sam asks Cortland, in his most sheriffy voice, if they should do an autopsy, but Cortland's like, "Nah man, Clint just ate too many cheeseburgers or something." Post Sam's departure, Joanna and Cortland have a moment that's steamier than a high school drama, but Cortland puts on his best poker face and bids everyone goodnight. Cut to Sam unable to sleep, enjoying a beer with his wife, trying to wrap his head around the sudden demise of his pal. The scene then takes a detour to the morgue. Dead bodies galore, and one of them twitches. No, it's not a zombie apocalypse, just Clint's body, which corners are about to prep for the farewell party. Over at the funeral home, Cortland is laying down the ground rules, including keeping the service short and sans embalming, because Joanna is all about saving that coin. As they go about prepping Clint's body, one of the funeral home staff is about to cut an artery to drain fluids and speed up decomposition, when the boss intervenes. He says, "Hold up, mate, his fam doesn't want to foot the bill for that." Well, apparently Clint's friends and family don't like to break the bank. They went for the bargain bin option when buying Clint's coffin. Joanna strolls up to pay her respects, dropping a flower into Clint's casket. The dog, Duke, starts kicking up a fuss, probably upset over the floral faux pas. He knows what's up. Flowers at funerals come in pairs, not singles. Oh, the podacity. I'm sorry for that. Next scene, Joanna, our cackling villainess, is having a good old soak in the tub with her accomplice, Cortland, both laughing like they've just seen the world's funniest cat meme, probably laughing about how they tried to off Clint but clearly botched it. Later, the night starts sounding like a metal concert with thunder and rain hammering down. Duke the dog turns into a furry alarm, going ballistic at the thought of Clint being missing. Joanna, deciding she's had enough of Duke's unplanned noise concert, pulls a gun and shoots the cage. Not the best shot, is she? Poor Duke's terrified, but he zips out of there like Usain Bolt on a mission. And where does our hero hound head? Why, to Clint's grave, of course. And twist of the century, Clint's not pushing daisies. His cheap coffin's leaking like a colander, which turns out to be a good thing. Clint, like a low-budget Houdini, breaks through the IKEA-tier coffin and claws his way out. No zombies here, just Clint, very much alive and raring for revenge. Home again, Clint peeks through a window to see Joanna and Cortland in a classic soap opera lip lock, betrayed by his wife and his bestie. Ouch. Deciding to lay low for a bit, he makes himself comfy in the basement. As comfy as one can be in a basement after faking one's death. Next day, Joanna's meeting with Clint's lawyer, trying to sell the company for a cool $1.5 million. Clint's upstairs running the fridge like a post-hibernation bear. But Joanna's home early, and Clint nearly gives himself away. He grabs a gun, but in a slapstick moment worthy of Chaplin, he drops the bullets. How unclintvenient. I'm sorry. Armed and ready, Clint's about to make his grand entrance when he's interrupted by the doorbell. The sheriff's in town. He's here to check up on Joanna, who's acting more suspicious than a cat with feathers in its whiskers. They chat about Clint's legacy and Cortland shows up, probably to add more fuel to the suspicion fire. But Clint's not ready to confront the chaos yet. He slinks back to the basement, plotting his next move. Joanna, meanwhile, is sweating like a snowman in July, ready to skip town before the sheriff catches on. But Cortland advises to wait another day for the big payday. The two also discuss Joanna's pregnancy and her decision to abort so she would not have to be with Clint. This enrages Clint even more, but he pulls bullets from his rifle, realizing that killing them with a gun would be too easy. So Joanna hits the hay and Clint, feeling like Edward Scissorhands, is all scissors time. After playing at being a surgeon or a DIY enthusiast, not sure which, he cleans up, bandages himself, and calls it a day. In the next scene, some suits show up and hand Joanna a briefcase, and not just any briefcase. This thing's stuffed with more green than a vegan's lunchbox. The $1.5 million to be exact. Joanna's jaw hits the floor, and once the suits leave, she can't wait to go all Brewster's Millions with her friend Cortland. Meanwhile, we got the local sheriff playing detective and freaking out over Clint's grave. It's been dug up, no corpse. Probably stolen. And what's his next move? Why, he orders the empty coffin home. Nothing like a bit of home decor, right? Then back to Joanna, who's now looking at her $1,000,000 like it's a kitten that just learned to purr. But hold the phone. She walks into the bathroom to find enough mud to start a mud wrestling match. She calls Cortland, but he gets his voicemail. Maybe he's busy practicing his fish whispering skills. Yep, he chats with fish, don't ask. She decides to leave a message, warning him about a possible intruder, then heads for the rifle. Girl's got guts. Our next guest is Duke, the dog who suddenly decides Joanna's more suspicious than a cat at a dog show, and barks at her. Meanwhile, Clint decides to play Lockdown and traps Joanna in the basement. Meanwhile, Cortland's getting cozy with his aquatic buddies, extracting poison and all, until he checks his phone to find out he's been slacking on the rent payments for 6 months. Probably too busy talking to fish. Now he might be out of a place soon, but that won't stop him from checking in on Joanna. He sees a briefcase of cash, and his eyes light up like a kid in a candy shop. But oh, Joanna's awake now. She hears Cortland shouting her name and decides to swing into action with a metal rod. Well, that escalated quickly. Joanna picks up the cash and tries to head upstairs, but Clint has other plans. He slams the door shut, strutting around like he owns the place. Oh wait, he actually does. Meanwhile, Cortland is regaining consciousness and probably contemplating a career change. Fish whispering isn't really paying the bills. Joanna's face flushes as she apologizes for whacking him. Cortland, evidently keen on action movies, whips out a gun and tries his best Bruce Willis impression at the door. Unfortunately, the bullets have been swapped out for gunpowder and hot air. He gives the wooden window a shot, but Duke, the dog, starts barking up a storm. He's more annoyed than a vegan at a barbecue. Meanwhile, Clint's on a mission. Bob the Builder vibes. He saws away at the wall. A picture of him and the missus falling to pieces. Heartwarming, right? Fast forward to the next day, Joanna and Cortland are living the world's worst reality show, locked in for solid 8 hours. Cortland's conspiracy theories are spinning out. He thinks Sam the sheriff has an eye on the money. His inner Walter White is ready to do the sheriff in. And then Joanna finds Cortland's secret syringe of poison. She stashes it like a kid hides their phone during a surprise room inspection. She makes a proposal to Cortland. If he truly loves her, he should light all the money on fire. Something about a fire sale? When confronted, Cortland admits his lies about the clinic, confessing he'd rather run off with the loot to a tropical island. But plot twist, the door opens just as Cortland's about to stick Joanna with the poison. They reconsider their plans and step outside, only to find the house renovated, looking like a Pinterest dream. Their way out, not so dreamy, as they find themselves lost in a labyrinth. Back to Sam, who's obsessed with his friend's case. He checks the coffin, discovers signs of life and starts punching it, which honestly is a weird reaction, but who am I to judge? Back at the house, mid-criminal chat, Joanna and Cortland are separated by a sudden wall. Cortland spots a figure, tries to bribe what he thinks is Sam, but nope, it's Clint. Like in a slapstick movie, Cortland trips over the briefcase of money and falls on his own poison syringe. He really stepped on his own tail there. Next, Joanna is stuck between Clint and a tiny trap door. She squirms through the door and finds herself locked in. Clint pops in, mentioning their aborted child. Way to keep it light, Clint. Cortland and the money end up in a hefty wooden coffin, nailed shut by Clint. He then douses everything in gasoline and sets it on fire, because apparently he's never heard of a breakup text. Off he goes in his truck, loyal dog in tow. Enter Sam post-fire. No bodies to be found. At the cemetery, he encounters a man by Clint's grave. It's Clint himself. After a tense chat, Sam bids him goodbye, claiming he doesn't know Clint anymore. Clint nods, drives away. Plot twist? The grave has Joanna, Cortland, and the cash. And there you have it, folks. Moral of the story? Just don't get married.